Like and subscribe right now, or you might just find yourself on the receiving end of a medieval punishment. Ever heard of being boiled alive for stealing a loaf of bread? Or how about the 14th century dancing plague that turned an entire town into a chaotic conga line? Buckle up, because today we're diving into the bizarre, the grotesque, and the downright shocking oddities of history that make you grateful for modern times. Did you know that in ancient Rome, they used urine as mouthwash? Yes, you heard that right. And let's not forget the delightful practice of trial by ordeal, where you could be thrown into water to determine your guilt or innocence. Spoiler alert, if you floated, you were guilty. How's that for a fair trial? We'll explore the freakish punishments of yesteryear, like flaying, impalement, and the infamous brazen bull, where unfortunate souls became dinner for the very device that was supposed to torture them. And don't even get me started on medieval sex practices. Who knew that some people considered consensual non-consent a thing back then? Ever wondered why the Great Fire of London in 1666 turned into a catastrophe? Or how about the bizarre myth of the chupacabra that still haunts the nightmares of modern-day livestock? Get ready for a roller coaster of facts that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about history. So, grab a snack, hit that loop button, and let this episode repeat until you drift off into a bizarre historical dream. Because who needs a lullaby when you have tales of beheaded monarchs and ancient curses to keep you wide awake? Stick around, you're in for a wild ride. Hashtag the lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. In the grand tapestry of Byzantine history, stretching from the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE to the fall of Constantinople in 1453 CE, one might expect to find tales of emperors, conquests, and theological disputes. Yet, nestled awkwardly between the grand narratives of imperial glory and ecclesiastical strife lies a tale much less grand, the history of paperclip regulations under the Byzantine bureaucracy. Yes, you heard that right, paperclips. Hashtag the dawn of bureaucratic paperclip use, 6th century CE. Let us set our time machines to the mid-6th century, to the rule of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 CE. While Justinian was busy attempting to reconquer lost territories and codifying Roman law, he inadvertently set the stage for an administrative revolution, one that would soon involve that most humble of office supplies, the paperclip. The earliest records of this bureaucratic marvel can be traced back to the famed Codex Justinianus, a legal document that, while not explicitly mentioning paperclips, certainly gave rise to the need for organizing vast quantities of parchment. What do we know about early Byzantine paperwork? Well, let's just say it was a real mess. Historians estimate that a single imperial decree could generate a stack of scrolls measuring approximately 1.5 meters high, an impressive feat, until you consider the time it would take a poor scribe to locate a specific edict buried beneath all that papyrus. Hashtag the rise of the paperclip, 9th century CE. Fast forward to the 9th century, a time when Byzantine bureaucracy became a veritable labyrinth of forms and regulations. Under the reign of Emperor Basil I, 867 to 886 CE, we begin to find the first formal mentions of devices used to bind documents, a clip, if you will. While not yet the modern paperclip we know and love today, these early iterations were more akin to crude metal pins, often designed in the shape of eagles, a symbol of imperial power. Did you know that Basil I once decreed that every document must be bound with at least 3 pins? Why 3? Perhaps he believed in the magical properties of odd numbers, or maybe he just enjoyed watching his bureaucrats wrestle with piles of scrolls. Whatever the reason, this decree led to the first recorded instance of bureaucratic squabbling. Countless clerks complained about the excess pins, claiming they were more trouble than they were worth, and the term "clepitis" emerged, referring to the constant fear of losing documents amid the clutter. ####### The Imperial Paperclip Regulation of 1045 CE. By 1045 CE, under the reign of Emperor Constantine IX Monomachos, the Byzantine Empire had reached a peak of absurdity in its regulations. A new law mandated that all documents produced by the imperial chancellery must be secured with a standardized paperclip, though the design was wildly variable, leading to a plethora of shapes, spirals, geometric forms, and even miniature representations of the emperor's favorite horse, a creature named Bucephalus II. Wouldn't you love to see that meeting, gentlemen? We must design a paperclip that embodies the glory of our empire. Make it magnificent. Make it horsey. The result was a collection of paperclip designs that would make any modern art critic weep. Each province began producing their own interpretation of the imperial paperclip, leading to a smorgasbord of designs ranging from the elegant to the downright bizarre. Historians have classified these designs into 3 main categories. 1. The regal clip, resembling an imperial crown, often adorned with tiny gemstones, because why not? 2. The provincial clip, simple and utilitarian. These were made from whatever scrap metal was available, often resulting in sharp edges and serious injuries. 3. The eccentric clip, designed by particularly creative clerks. These included clips shaped like animals, buildings, and even abstract concepts like hope or despair. ######## The Great Paperclip Scandal of 1120 CE. In 1120 CE, the Byzantine Empire faced what has been termed the Great Paperclip Scandal. A series of documents surfaced revealing that certain provincial governors had been pocketing imperial paperclips for personal gain. This scandal rocked the very foundations of Byzantine bureaucracy. Imagine the shockwaves when it was discovered that the governor of Anatolia had stockpiled over 10,000 paperclips in the shape of the imperial eagle, intending to sell them on the black market. What could possibly drive a man to stockpile paperclips? One can only speculate. Perhaps he was preparing for a great document emergency, or maybe he just really loved shiny things. Either way, this incident led to a crackdown on what became known as clip theft, an offense punishable by a hefty fine or, if one was particularly unfortunate, a lifetime of filing documents without any clips whatsoever. ######### The Paperclip Reformation of 1179 CE. Fast forward to 1179 CE, during the reign of Emperor Manuel I Komnenos. This era saw the first serious attempt to standardize paperclip regulations across the empire. The emperor, influenced by the burgeoning Renaissance spirit, decided it was time for a change. He convened a grand council of scholars, bureaucrats, and artists to discuss the future of paperclip design. After weeks of debate, the council proposed the Great Paperclip Reformation, which aimed to create a single, uniform design of paperclip that would streamline document organization and reduce the chaos. What did they settle on? A sleek, minimalist design that was more functional than ornamental, much to the dismay of the eccentric clerks who had grown fond of their fanciful creations. The new paperclip was crafted from a single piece of metal wire, making it simple, elegant, and utterly devoid of personality. This reformation, however, did not come without its drawbacks. Amidst the changes, clerks found themselves mourning the loss of their beloved eccentric clips, leading to a wave of protests across the provinces. "Bring back the ornate clips," they cried, waving banners adorned with artistic renditions of horses and eagles. ###### The bureaucratic clutter, 13th century CE. As we move into the 13th century, the Byzantine bureaucracy had expanded to such a degree that the paperclip had become an essential, albeit often neglected, component of administrative life. The number of imperial decrees had soared, and clerks found themselves buried under mountains of paperwork, all held together by those now ubiquitous metal clips. In 1234 CE, a particularly ambitious clerk named Andronikos decided to conduct a study on the average number of paperclips used per decree. His findings: an astounding average of 7.3 clips per document. This led to the creation of the Clip Count initiative, aimed at reducing waste and increasing efficiency. But how do you count clips? The answer was simple: use a system of tally marks on the parchment. However, this soon devolved into clerical chaos, as clerks began arguing over the accuracy of their counts. "I swear I had 2 fewer clips last week," one clerk was heard shouting, while another insisted, "No, you lost them in a scroll avalanche." The decline of paperclip regulations, 15th century CE. As the Byzantine Empire approached its twilight in the 15th century, the importance of paperclips began to wane. The rise of the Ottoman Empire and the fall of Constantinople in 1453 CE marked the end of an era. The last Byzantine emperor, Constantine XI, famously declared, "Save the empire, save the paperclips," as he prepared for the final siege. Where did all those clips go? Historians speculate that they were either captured by the Ottomans or melted down to produce weapons, an unfortunate fate for the humble paperclip. Conclusion. As we look back on the Byzantine Empire, it's easy to dismiss the paperclip as a trivial aspect of history, but it was woven into the very fabric of bureaucratic life. From its early days as a makeshift binding device to its role in the chaotic world of Byzantine administration, the paperclip reflects the empire's complexities, absurdities, and occasional moments of brilliance. So, the next time you struggle to find a paperclip in your own life, remember the Byzantine clerks who fought for their right to bind documents with flair. After all, if they could create a history so rich and entertaining around a mere piece of bent wire, surely we can appreciate the small things in our own bureaucratic battles. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy. Paperclip regulations. #Introduction. In the grand tapestry of Byzantine history, where emperors vied for power and theologians debated the nature of the divine, one might assume that the bureaucratic minutiae of paperclip regulations would be relegated to the annals of triviality. Yet, the Byzantine Empire, known for its complex administrative systems, saw fit to create an elaborate framework governing even the simplest of office supplies. This paper will explore the construction methods, materials, costs, bureaucratic rules and punishments, job descriptions, technical specifications, and inventories related to Byzantine paperclip regulations. Construction methods and materials. The Byzantine Empire, at its zenith, was a hub of innovation, even when it came to mundane office supplies. The paperclip, though humble, was constructed using several methods that reflected the empire's commitment to quality and craftsmanship. 1. Wire bending techniques. 4th century CE, Byzantine artisans employed a variety of wire bending techniques that were both functional and aesthetically pleasing. The most common material was brass, sourced from the mines of Thrace, which provided a sturdy yet malleable foundation for paperclips. 2. Galvanization process, 7th century CE. By the time of Emperor Justinian II, the empire had developed an early form of galvanization that involved coating the brass clips in a thin layer of tin to prevent rusting. This innovation was crucial for preserving the longevity of these office staples, especially in the damp climate of Constantinople. 3. Cost analysis. The cost of a single paperclip during the reign of Emperor Basil II, 976-1025 CE, was roughly 1/10 of a solidus, approximately 0.1% of a day's wages for a common laborer. Given that a pack of 100 could be purchased for the equivalent of a quarter of a denarius, it was an accessible commodity for all levels of bureaucracy. Bureaucratic rules and punishments. The Byzantine bureaucracy was characterized by a rigid hierarchy and an obsession with regulation. Paperclip regulation was no exception. It was governed by a series of decrees that outlined usage, distribution, and even penalties for misuse. 1. Imperial Edict of 550 CE. This groundbreaking decree established guidelines for the production and use of paperclips within the imperial offices. It stipulated that all paperclips must adhere to a standard length of 2 inches and a width of 0.25 inches to maintain uniformity across the empire. 2. Punishments for non-compliance. Bureaucrats who failed to adhere to these regulations faced consequences ranging from a mere reprimand to the more severe punishment of demotion. In extreme cases, a repeat offender could find themselves exiled to a remote provincial office, far away from the bustling streets of Constantinople. In practice, this was often a fate worse than a Byzantine brunch without honey. 3. Annual inspections. To ensure compliance, the Byzantine administration instituted annual inspections of paperclip stocks throughout all government offices. Inspectors, known as clipoclasts, were tasked with checking not only the quantity but also the quality of the paperclips in use. They would report any discrepancies directly to the emperor's treasury, which maintained a strict accountability system. Hashtag roles and job descriptions. The Byzantine bureaucracy was vast, and within it, specific roles were created to manage the minutiae of paperclip regulations. 1. Chief Paperclip Officer, CPO. This high-ranking official was responsible for overseeing the entire paperclip inventory of the imperial bureaucracy. The CPO reported directly to the emperor and had the authority to implement new regulations or revise existing ones. A typical CPO would have a background in metallurgy or economics, ensuring a well-rounded understanding of both the material and its financial implications. 2. Clip codifiers. These clerks were tasked with the creation and maintenance of the Codex Clipus, a comprehensive manual detailing the approved designs, sizes, and materials for paperclips. Their work was considered vital for maintaining bureaucratic efficiency, and they often collaborated with artisans to ensure that production aligned with regulations. 3. Inventory inspectors. Positioned throughout the empire, these inspectors conducted routine audits of paperclip stocks. Their role was crucial in preventing shortages that could lead to bureaucratic gridlock. Inspectors often found themselves in the unusual position of mediating disputes between clerks over the state of their paperclip supplies, an irony not lost on the ancient world. Hashtag technical specs and inventories. To understand the Byzantine paperclip, one must delve into the technical specifications that defined this seemingly simple object. 1. Technical specifications. Material, brass with a tin coating. Standard size, 2 inches in length, 0.25 inches in width. Weight, approximately 0.5 grams per paperclip. Tensile strength, capable of holding together up to 20 sheets of parchment without deformation. 2. Inventory management. The Byzantine Empire implemented a sophisticated inventory system for tracking paperclips. Every office was required to maintain a stock ledger, detailing the initial quantity, daily usage rates, and any incidents of loss or damage. 3. Sample inventory list, circa 800 CE. Total paperclips issued, 10,000. Current inventory, 8,500. Daily usage rate, 150. Damaged clips, 250, due to excessive bending, a common offense. 4. Specialized paperclips. In addition to standard clips, the Byzantine bureaucracy occasionally authorized the production of specialized paperclips for specific purposes. Ceremonial clips, ornately designed clips used in state documents and treaties. Sealed clips, used for confidential documents, these were designed to break easily, indicating tampering. Hashtag witty asides. It's worth noting that the Byzantine obsession with paperclip regulations might seem trivial today, however, one can only imagine the bureaucratic debates that raged over the appropriate length of a paperclip. 2 inches. Preposterous, one official would declare, while another would counter, surely, the empire must unify in its paperclip standards, lest we descend into chaos. Hashtag conclusion. The Byzantine imperial bureaucracy, with its labyrinthine regulations and intricate hierarchies, found a way to elevate even the simplest of office supplies to an object of administrative scrutiny. Through meticulous construction methods, rigid rules, and defined roles, the empire ensured that paperclips were not merely functional but emblematic of the order and organization that characterized Byzantine governance. Although the history of paperclip regulations may seem lackluster at first glance, it serves as a reminder of the Byzantine Empire's attention to detail and the lengths to which it would go to maintain bureaucratic efficiency. As the world moved on to digital documentation, one can only ponder the fate of those once mighty paperclips, now relegated to the dusty corners of history, forever waiting for their moment of bureaucratic glory. Title: The Lackluster History of Byzantine Imperial Bureaucracy Paperclip Regulations. Introduction. The Byzantine Empire, renowned for its intricate bureaucracy and lavish court life, had a rather unassuming yet fascinating aspect of its administrative machinery: paperclip regulations. While much has been written about its emperors, wars, and religious schisms, the Byzantine approach to paperclips reveals the empire's obsession with orderliness, utility, and the sometimes absurd nature of bureaucratic regulation. This paper seeks to delve into the construction methods, materials used, costs, bureaucratic rules and punishments, roles and job descriptions, technical specifications and inventories, and ultimately, the amusing quirks of Byzantine paperclip regulations. 2. Construction methods, materials, and costs. 1. Construction methods *. Wire bending *. The primary method of producing Byzantine paperclips involved bending thin metal wire into a looped shape. Artisans employed pliers and rudimentary tools forged from iron, which were often repurposed for more grandiose projects, like armor making. Batch production *. Unlike modern mass production, Byzantine paperclips were crafted in small batches. Artisans would often work in guilds, pooling resources to meet the demands of bureaucratic offices across the empire. 2. Materials *. Iron and bronze *. The most common materials for paperclip production were iron and bronze. Iron was favored for its durability, while bronze was sometimes used for decorative clips, adorned with imperial insignia. Gold and silver * In rare instances, particularly in the imperial court, paperclips were crafted from gold or silver, designed for ceremonial purposes or as gifts to favored bureaucrats. One can only imagine the envy of a lesser clerk receiving a gilded paperclip from his superior. 3. Costs *. Labor costs *. The cost of labor fluctuated based on the skill level of the artisan. A skilled wire bender could command a daily wage of 1 to 2 solidi, depending on the demand for his craft. Material costs *. The price of iron was relatively low, averaging around 5 denarii per pound, whereas bronze clips could range from 10 to 30 denarii each, depending on their size and intricacy. Gold and silver paperclips, on the other hand, could cost as much as 100 solidi, leading to the phrase, "a clip worth its weight in gold," though the only thing it clipped was the parchment of bureaucratic tedium. 3. Bureaucratic rules and punishments. 1. Regulatory framework *. The Byzantine bureaucracy was governed by a series of detailed regulations concerning the use of paperclips. These rules were codified in the Codex Justianus, in 529 AD, which included guidelines on the acceptable dimensions and permissible materials for paperclips utilized in official documents. A decree issued by Emperor Justinian mandated that all paperclips must not exceed a width of 0.5 centimeters and a length of 3 centimeters, ensuring uniformity across all bureaucratic offices. 2. Rules and Procedures *. Clip allocation * bureaucrats were required to apply for paperclip allocations quarterly, justifying their needs with detailed reports outlining the number of documents processed in the previous term. Documentation * each paperclip, once issued, had to be logged in the Register of Bureaucratic Supplies, an extensive tome that would make even the most diligent librarian weep. 3. Punishments * Misuse of paperclips * clerks caught using paperclips for unauthorized purposes, such as jewelry or makeshift tools, faced penalties including fines and temporary demotion. Clip hoarding * any bureaucrat found hoarding paperclips beyond their allocated quota would be subject to public reprimand, which often included a ceremonial denouncement during court sessions. Imagine standing before the imperial court, clutching your precious stash of paperclips as the emperor's gaze bore down upon you. Not exactly the best way to win friends in high places. 4. Roles and Job Descriptions. 1. Clerical Positions *. Clip custodian * this role was responsible for the inventory and allocation of paperclips within the office. A meticulous individual, the clip custodian was often the most feared person in the bureaucracy, as they wielded the power to grant or deny access to the coveted office supplies. Document clerk * tasked with the preparation and organization of official documents, document clerks were the primary users of paperclips. They were required to ensure that all documents were properly clipped, preventing the scandalous disaster of loose parchment fluttering about the imperial offices. 2. Administrative Titles *. Bureau Chief * the Bureau Chief oversaw several document clerks and clip custodians, ensuring compliance with paperclip regulations. They often wielded their authority with an iron fist, ready to crack down on any infractions regarding paperclip usage. Imperial Inspector * appointed by the Emperor, the Imperial Inspector conducted surprise audits on bureaucratic offices, scrutinizing paperclip inventories and usage logs. Unsurprisingly, the sight of an Imperial Inspector sent clerks into a frenzy, as they scrambled to ensure compliance lest they faced the wrath of the Empire. V. Technical Specifications and Inventories. 1. Technical Specifications *. The Byzantine paperclip was designed with a standardized loop shape, allowing for easy attachment to documents. The inner diameter of the loop measured approximately 2 centimeters, while the overall design ensured minimal risk of tearing the parchment. An additional regulation mandated that all paperclips must have a smooth finish to prevent injury to clerks' fingers. After all, a bureaucracy runs best when its workers are not nursing paper-related injuries. 2. Inventories *. Bureaucratic offices maintained meticulous inventories of all supplies, including paperclips. Each office was required to conduct a monthly inventory, documenting the number of paperclips on hand, those in use, and any that had mysteriously disappeared, often blamed on the clip gremlins, a humorous nod to the bureaucratic culture. A typical inventory list might include: total paperclips issued, 1,000. Paperclips in use, 750. Paperclips lost to the abyss, 50. Current stock, 200. Paperclips used for crafts, 35, a serious offense, indeed. 6. The absurdities of bureaucratic life. Despite the serious nature of Byzantine bureaucracy, the rules surrounding paperclips often led to amusing scenarios and anecdotes. For instance, there was the infamous paperclip incident of 573 AD, where a clerical error resulted in an office receiving a surplus of 10,000 paperclips instead of the intended 1,000. The clerks celebrated with an impromptu paperclip art contest, leading to the creation of intricate sculptures that baffled and entertained the court. As another example, during Emperor Basil II's reign in the 10th century, a popular saying emerged: better a paperclip in hand than a bureaucrat at large. This phrase humorously highlighted the Byzantine obsession with order, suggesting that even the most mundane of supplies could bring about a semblance of control in an otherwise chaotic bureaucratic landscape. 7. Conclusion. The Byzantine Empire's approach to paperclip regulation stands as a testament to its bureaucratic zeal and commitment to order. From the meticulous construction methods to the rigorous regulatory framework, the paperclip served as an emblem of both functionality and absurdity within the empire. While the grand narratives of emperors and wars dominate historical discourse, the legacy of Byzantine paperclips reminds us that even the most mundane aspects of governance can reveal the quirks and complexities of human nature. In the grand tapestry of history, it's often the smallest threads that weave the most intriguing stories. Next time you reach for a paperclip, remember the Byzantine clerks who ensured that every piece of parchment remained orderly, if only to avoid the wrath of their clip custodian. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. In the grand tapestry of Byzantine history, where emperors rose and fell, and wars were waged over territories and ideas, there lies an unassuming yet oddly compelling chapter: the regulation of paperclips. Yes, you read that right. The Byzantine Empire, known for its splendor and intricate bureaucracy, had its share of mundane minutiae, including rules governing one of the simplest office supplies in history. Buckle up as we delve into the construction methods, bureaucratic rules, roles, and technical specs that shaped the Byzantine approach to paperclip regulation, a tale as riveting as it is peculiar. ### Construction methods and materials. The paperclip, as we know it today, was not the end product of Byzantine innovation. However, the methods and materials used in its rudimentary forms during the empire's zenith, circa 500–1453 AD, are worth noting. Byzantine bureaucrats often utilized materials like bronze, iron, and even gold in the construction of their paper fasteners, depending on the status of the document and the importance of the sender. 1. Bronze clips, 6th century. These early paperclips were hand-forged by skilled artisans. Bronze was favored for its durability and resistance to rust. Each clip was typically about 2 inches long and could hold up to 20 sheets of parchment, a considerable feat for the time. 2. Iron clips, 8th century. With the advent of iron smelting technologies, bureaucrats began using iron paperclips. These were mass-produced in workshops, allowing for a reduction in costs and an increase in availability. The iron clips often featured decorative elements, reflecting the Byzantine penchant for aesthetics. 3. Gold clips, 12th century. Reserved for the most important documents, gold paperclips were crafted using a lost wax casting method. These clips were not just functional but also a status symbol, often adorned with intricate designs that showcased the wealth of the sender. Costs of construction. The cost of manufacturing paperclips varied significantly across the Byzantine Empire, depending on the material and the intricacy of the design. Bronze clips. The raw material cost approximately 1 solidus, equivalent to a day's wage for a laborer, while the craftsmanship could add another half solidus. Thus, a bronze clip typically cost 1.5 solidi. Iron clips. With the decline of craftsmanship and the rise of mass production, iron clips were relatively cheap, costing only 0.2 solidi each. This made them the most popular choice among bureaucrats. Gold clips. Naturally, these luxury items commanded a hefty price tag, often ranging from 5 to 10 solidi, depending on the weight and craftsmanship involved. One might say the Byzantine economy was more clip-tastic than one might assume. Bureaucratic rules and punishments. The Byzantine Empire was notorious for its intricate bureaucratic regulations, and the realm of paperclips was no exception. By the 10th century, a comprehensive set of rules governed the use, distribution, and even the mismanagement of paperclips. 1. Usage regulations. Each bureaucrat was allotted a set number of paperclips per month based on their rank. Junior clerks received 20 clips, while high-ranking officials received upwards of 100, as it was believed they had more important documents to manage. Misuse of paperclips, such as using them for non-official correspondence, was strictly prohibited. 2. Record keeping. Each department was required to maintain an inventory of paperclips, documenting usage and reordering needs. The infamous clip log was a common sight in bureaucratic offices, filled with meticulous entries detailing each clip's life cycle. 3. Punishments for infraction. Mismanagement of paperclips was taken seriously. First-time offenders faced a reprimand, but recurrent misuse could lead to fines or even demotion. In extreme cases, repeat offenders could be subjected to public humiliation, standing in the agora with a sign that read, "Paperclip profligate." One could argue that the Byzantines knew how to keep their officials in line, one clip at a time. Roles and job descriptions. The Byzantine bureaucratic system was highly stratified, with specific roles dedicated to managing office supplies, including paperclips. 1. Clip custodian, 10th century. Responsible for the overall management of paperclips within a department. This role required meticulous attention to detail and an ability to forecast future needs. The clip custodian also oversaw training for junior staff on proper paperclip usage. 2. Clip inspector, 12th century. tasked with ensuring compliance with the paperclip regulations. Inspectors performed surprise audits, checking inventories and inspecting usage logs for discrepancies. They wielded considerable power, with the authority to impose fines on departments that failed to adhere to regulations. 3. Clip accountant. This role involved the financial aspects of paperclip management. The clip accountant tracked costs, prepared budgets for new supplies, and ensured that the department remained within fiscal constraints. 4. Junior clip clerk. An entry-level position where individuals learn the ropes of bureaucratic life. Junior clip clerks were responsible for daily inventory counts and the distribution of paperclips to senior officials. In a world where the importance of a paperclip could rival that of a diplomatic envoy, the Byzantine bureaucrat's job was no small feat. Technical specs and inventories. Byzantine technical specifications for paperclips were surprisingly advanced for their time. Each clip was designed for maximum efficiency, with a standardized size that allowed for easy manufacturing. 1. Dimensions. Standard bronze and iron clips measured approximately 5 cm in length and 1 cm in width. Gold clips were often slightly larger to accommodate decorative features. 2. Weight. A bronze clip weighed about 5 grams, while iron clips were marginally lighter due to their thinner design. Gold clips, being precious and malleable, varied in weight but typically weighed around 10 grams. 3. Inventory practices. Departments utilized a method known as the clip count, where clerks performed weekly counts of their inventory. This was recorded in a clip register, a bound ledger that documented incoming and outgoing clips. 4. Materials inventory. Every department had to maintain a materials inventory for paperclips, noting the types and quantities on hand. This practice ensured that no bureaucratic office ever ran out of paperclips, which, as legend has it, could lead to a bureaucratic meltdown of epic proportions. Witty asides and conclusions. As we navigate the labyrinthine corridors of Byzantine bureaucracy, one can't help but ponder the sheer absurdity of such regulations governing an innocuous office supply. In a world beset by wars, plagues, and political intrigue, the Byzantine Empire was preoccupied with the important question: are our paperclips in order? It's a wonder that the empire didn't crumble under the weight of its own administrative detail. One might even say that the infamous saying, "It's all in the details," could very well have originated within the dusty halls of a Byzantine office, where two clerks debated the merits of bronze versus iron clips over a bowl of olives. In conclusion, the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy's paperclip regulations may seem trivial, but they offer a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of governance in one of history's most storied empires. From construction methods to technical specifications, these regulations tell us much about the Byzantine approach to order, discipline, and, yes, even the art of managing office supplies. After all, in the Byzantine Empire, a paperclip wasn't just a paperclip, it was a symbol of authority, structure, and the occasional bureaucratic absurdity that is both entertaining and enlightening to contemplate. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. The Byzantine Empire, known for its intricate web of bureaucracy and administrative complexity, had a rather mundane yet fascinating regulation pertaining to paperclips. Yes, paperclips. While they may seem trivial in the grand tapestry of history, understanding their regulation offers a glimpse into the Byzantine mindset regarding order, efficiency, and the peculiarities of imperial governance. Construction methods, materials, and costs. In the early days of the Byzantine Empire, circa 330 AD, the concept of the paperclip as we know it was still centuries away. However, the administrative need for binding documents was apparent. Initially, scribes used thread or twine to tie scrolls together, leading to a chaotic heap of parchment. By the 6th century, with the advent of metalworking techniques refined by the Roman legacy, the first rudimentary paperclips emerged. These early paperclips were constructed from thin strips of bronze, shaped into a loop, a far cry from the modern steel paperclip. The cost of such metal was relatively low. A pound of bronze could cost about 10 denarii, and one could produce 100 clips from that. Given that the average bureaucrat earned around 100 denarii per month, the expense was minimal, making paperclips an accessible tool for all levels of the administration. In the 9th century, as the empire expanded its bureaucratic reach, the demand for more durable and efficient document management tools grew. The Byzantines began using iron and even brass in their paperclip production. The transition to these materials allowed for a sturdier design that could withstand the rigors of Byzantine bureaucracy. Despite the higher material costs, the longevity of the clips justified the expense. Bureaucratic rules and punishments. With the rise of the paperclip came the necessity for regulations. By the reign of Emperor Basil II, 976 to 1025 AD, the Byzantine bureaucracy had formalized its approach to paperclip usage. A comprehensive set of rules emerged, codified in the Novelli, wherein the proper sanctioning of paperclips was established. 1. Size specifications. Paperclips were to be no longer than 5 cm to prevent excessive paper damage, a practical rule, albeit one that led to frequent debates among clerks about the merits of a slightly longer clip. 2. Material standards. Only approved metals, bronze, iron, or brass, were permitted. Using alternative materials, like the increasingly popular iron wire, was banned unless sealed with the imperial mark. 3. Usage protocol. Bureaucrats were instructed to use one paperclip for every 10 sheets of parchment. Violators faced fines of up to 20 denarii, an amount significant enough to encourage compliance but not crippling to the average scribe. 4. Storage regulations. Each department was required to store their paperclips in a designated metal container, no larger than 10 cm in height, to avoid cluttering desks with loose clips. Failure to adhere to these regulations resulted in punishments ranging from fines to demotions. In extreme cases, habitual offenders faced exile to remote provinces, where they were forced to bind scrolls with nothing but twine, a fate worse than a bureaucratic purgatory. Roles and job descriptions. Byzantine bureaucracy was a well-oiled machine, with specific roles dedicated to the management of paperclips. The Chartularios served as the chief administrator, overseeing the entire bureaucratic apparatus, including paperclip regulations. Below him were several key positions. 1. Paperclip supervisor, responsible for ensuring compliance with the paperclip regulations. This role involved conducting regular inspections of storage containers. Failure to find the requisite number of clips could lead to a stern reprimand. 2. Scribe, the backbone of the Byzantine bureaucracy. Scribes were tasked with producing documents. They were also responsible for keeping precise records of paperclip usage, which were submitted monthly to the chartularios. 3. Metalsmith, charged with producing the paperclips. These artisans played a vital role in the supply chain. They were also responsible for upholding the standards set forth in the novelli. 4. Inspection officer. This role required a keen eye for detail, as officers made rounds to ensure compliance with all paperclip regulations. They often carried a small pouch filled with extra clips to ensure that no department ran short. One can only imagine the heated debates in the bureaucratic halls about the merits of various paperclip designs, an echo of the age-old question, to clip or not to clip. Technical specs and inventories. As the Byzantine Empire matured, so did the need for precise technical specifications regarding paperclips. By the 11th century, the imperial archives contained extensive inventories detailing the dimensions, materials, and quantities of paperclips held by each department. Here are some key specifications. Standard paperclip size, 5 cm in length, 0.5 cm in diameter. Weight, approximately 2 grams per clip. Material composition, 60% copper, 40% zinc for brass clips, 95% iron for iron clips. The annual inventory reported that the Ministry of Finance alone possessed over 10,000 paperclips, a staggering number that showcased the empire's commitment to order. However, such volumes also led to debates about whether the empire was hoarding resources or simply preparing for a bureaucratic apocalypse. Moreover, the Notitia Dignitatum, a document outlining the administrative structure of the empire, included a section on paperclips, asserting their importance in maintaining imperial correspondence. The phrase, "a well-clipped document is a well-governed document," became a motto in bureaucratic circles, albeit a rather unexciting one. The cultural impact of paperclips. While the Byzantine Empire was known for its grand architecture and military conquests, the paperclip had its own unique cultural significance. The humorous notion of paperclip diplomacy emerged during the reign of Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, 1081 to 1118 AD. It was said that he could diffuse tense negotiations by simply offering a well-crafted paperclip to his rivals, symbolizing the binding of agreements. Additionally, the Byzantine paperclip became a metaphor for the empire's intricate layers of bureaucracy. It represented the binding force of the imperial structure, holding together not only documents but also the very fabric of society. Conclusion. The Byzantine Empire's history of paperclip regulations may seem lackluster at first glance, but it serves as a fascinating lens through which to view the complexity of Byzantine governance. From construction methods and bureaucratic rules to roles, job descriptions, and technical specifications, the paperclip was more than just a tool, it was a symbol of order in a chaotic world. In a society where every detail mattered, the humble paperclip stood as a testament to the Byzantine commitment to efficiency and organization. So the next time you reach for a paperclip, spare a thought for the Byzantine clerks who, with their strict regulations and diligent record-keeping, ensured that history was bound together, one clip at a time. And remember, in the grand arch of history, it's often the smallest details that hold the most weight, though not nearly as much as a Byzantine bureaucrat's pen. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations, a journey through time, taxes, and a touch of the grotesque. Ah, the Byzantine Empire! A treasure trove of history filled with intrigue, grandeur, and, let's face it, a crushingly complex bureaucracy that could make even the most seasoned civil servant weep. As we delve into the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy's regulation of paperclips, yes, you read that right, we find ourselves navigating a labyrinth of regional variations, laws, edicts, taxes, ledgers, logistics, and enough record-keeping to make any accountant's heart race. Buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy ride through the annals of history, where paperclips reign supreme. #### The regional variations over time, a sticky situation. Let's start by acknowledging that the Byzantine Empire was not a monolithic entity. From the sun-soaked shores of Asia Minor to the frost-bitten fringes of the Balkans, regional variations in paperclip regulations emerged like mushrooms after a rainstorm. You see, what might have been a simple wire clip in Constantinople could morph into an elaborate metal contraption in the provinces. The locals, influenced by cultural practices and available materials, developed their unique spin on the humble paperclip. In the bustling capital, paperclips were often crafted from silver or gold, reflecting the empire's opulence, because why settle for mundane when you can have a clip that practically screams, "I am important"? Meanwhile, in the far-flung provinces, where resources were scarce and creativity had to step in, paperclips could be fashioned from twisted straw or even carved wood. Who knew that a simple office supply could serve as a barometer for local wealth and ingenuity? As time marched on, these regional variations in paperclip craftsmanship became subject to the whims of emperors, each of whom believed that their vision for bureaucracy was the one to rule them all. A series of edicts rolled out like a finely tuned bureaucratic symphony, codifying the acceptable forms and materials for paperclips across the empire. Naturally, this led to confusion and a smattering of rebellion. After all, nothing says oppression quite like an imperial decree regulating humble office supplies. #### laws, edicts, and taxes, a bureaucrat's best friend. Ah, the Byzantine penchant for laws and edicts. One could say it was their thing, right up there with mosaics and coffee. The Byzantine emperors had a flair for the dramatic, and their legislation reflected that. In a stunning display of bureaucratic zeal, they issued a bewildering array of decrees that dictated the proper use, distribution, and taxation of paperclips. Let's dive into the tax codes, shall we? The Byzantine Empire was notorious for its tax collection methods, and paperclips were no exception. Imagine a world where every paperclip was taxed based on its material and design. A simple iron clip might incur a small fee, while an ornate gold clip could carry a tax burden hefty enough to make a merchant weep. The imperial coffers jingled merrily as tax collectors scuttled about, armed with measuring tapes to ensure that no one was skimping on the size or quality of their paperclips. Edicts also proliferated like confetti at a wedding. One such decree mandated that all paperclips must be registered in a central ledger. Yes, there were ledgers upon ledgers dedicated to the glorification of paperclip oversight. Imagine a scribe painstakingly noting each paperclip's entry, complete with a description of its dimensions, material, and intended purpose. Clip number 457, 2 inches long, made of brass, intended for the correspondence of the office of the imperial accountant. A riveting read, I assure you. ### logistics and supply chains, the great paperclip conspiracy. With all these regulations in place, one might wonder how the Byzantine Empire managed the logistics and supply chains of its paperclip empire. Spoiler alert, it was not a well-oiled machine. The Byzantine bureaucratic system was a convoluted mess that could rival the most tangled of yarn balls. Paperclip production was often localized, with artisans in various provinces producing their unique designs. However, the demand from the imperial court created an insatiable appetite for standardized clips, leading to a bureaucratic nightmare. The imperial supply chain stretched across the empire, from the silk-producing regions of Asia Minor to the metal-rich mines of Thrace. Imagine a caravan laden with paperclips trudging through treacherous mountain passes, dodging bandits and bureaucratic red tape. If the paperclips made it to their destination, they were greeted by clerks who would dutifully update the ledgers with the new arrivals. Ah, yes, 10,000 standard paperclips from Bithynia, and 5,000 ornamental clips from the Peloponnese. Let's see, that's a 10% tax on the ornamental clips, delightful. The sound of ink scratching on parchment could be heard echoing through the halls of power, drowning out the cries of the weary travelers. ### record keeping, the good, the bad, and the downright bizarre. Now, let's talk about record keeping. Because what would a Byzantine bureaucracy be without its penchant for excessive documentation? The records of paperclips were meticulously maintained, with clerks recording every possible detail. But it didn't stop there. The Byzantines had a delightful habit of adding annotations that could make even the driest of documents come alive. Picture this. A ledger entry reads, clip number 231, 3 inches, forged from iron. Used in the correspondence of the emperor's third cousin's administrative assistant. Note, clip slightly bent, possibly due to excessive use. This level of detail could be both informative and, at times, utterly absurd. As the empire progressed, record-keeping took on an almost mythical quality. Tales of legendary paperclips began to swirl among the clerks. Did you hear about the golden clip of Theodosius? It was said to have been blessed by a priest and could bind documents with unmatched authority. This led to a bizarre subculture of paperclip enthusiasts who would gather to swap tales of legendary clips and their supposed powers. Who knew that a simple office supply could inspire such fervor? ### the grotesque anecdote, a paperclip's dark side. Now that we've traversed through the land of bureaucracy, it's time to unveil a rather grotesque anecdote that remains an unsettling footnote in the history of Byzantine paperclip regulations. It turns out that in the 10th century, during a particularly trying time of famine and scarcity, the empire faced a shortage of materials for paperclip production. In a shocking twist of fate, some resourceful artisans resorted to using human bone as a substitute for metal. Yes, you read that correctly. As the demand for paperclips soared, and with the supply dwindling, enterprising individuals began crafting clips from the remains of the deceased. Imagine a clerk, obliviously scribbling away as he staples together documents bound with the macabre remnants of a long-lost soul. Ah yes, this bone clip is particularly sturdy, he might exclaim, completely unaware of the ethical implications. This grotesque repurposing of human remains sparked outrage among the populace, leading to a series of edicts prohibiting such practices. However, the scandal lingered like a bad smell in the halls of bureaucracy, reminding everyone that even the most mundane objects could carry a dark history. Conclusion, a legacy of lamentable lameness. In the grand tapestry of history, the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy's regulation of paperclips may seem a trivial pursuit, yet it reveals the absurdities of human nature and the complexities of governance. From the regional variations that highlighted local ingenuity to the labyrinthine logistics that made supply chains a headache, the Byzantine approach to paperclip regulation was anything but dull. Through laws, edicts, and a penchant for record-keeping, the Byzantine Empire left an indelible mark on the history of bureaucracy. And let's not forget the grotesque anecdote that serves as a reminder that even in the realm of office supplies, there lurks a shadowy side lurking just beneath the surface. So the next time you find yourself frustrated by a seemingly endless stream of paperwork, take a moment to reflect on the Byzantine legacy of paperclip regulation. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that even the most mundane of objects can carry the weight of an empire's bureaucracy, and sometimes, a hint of the grotesque. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations, a witty exploration. Ah, the Byzantine Empire. A realm of grandeur, intrigue, and an astonishing penchant for bureaucratic absurdity. When you think of this ancient empire, you might envision grand cathedrals, elaborate mosaics, and emperors draped in gold. However, buried beneath this gilded exterior lies a labyrinthine bureaucracy that, much like the empire's impressive architecture, was both convoluted and occasionally prone to collapse under the weight of its own excess. And at the heart of this bureaucratic quagmire, the surprisingly contentious issue of paperclip regulations. Regional variations over time. Before we dive headfirst into the delightful swamp of Byzantine paperclip regulations, let's take a moment to appreciate the empire's regional variations in bureaucracy. The Byzantine Empire was not a monolith, it was a sprawling mosaic of provinces, each with its own unique flair and inefficiencies. From the sun-kissed shores of Asia Minor to the chilly hinterlands of the Balkans, local officials had considerable leeway in how to interpret and enforce imperial edicts. Take, for instance, the famed province of Thrace. Here, the local bureaucrats took great pride in their elaborate accounting practices. Paperclips were considered essential tools of the trade, and each regional governor's office had a plethora of them, each bearing the emblem of the province. In contrast, the far-flung territories of Armenia, while rich in culture, couldn't care less about the Byzantine obsession with order. Paperclips there were often used as makeshift fishing hooks, a testament to the locals' resourcefulness, or perhaps their disdain for imperial regulations. As the centuries rolled on, the empire's approach to paperclips evolved, or, perhaps more accurately, devolved. By the 11th century, the once mighty bureaucracy had begun to splinter under the weight of its own regulations. Officials who once prided themselves on meticulous record-keeping found themselves buried under mountains of paperwork. The Byzantine paperclip became both a symbol of efficiency and a tool of procrastination, as bureaucrats spent more time wrangling with edicts than actually implementing them. Laws, edicts, taxes, and ledgers. The Byzantine Empire was renowned for its love of laws and edicts, which flowed like wine at a lavish banquet. This obsession with regulation extended to the lowly paperclip, as various emperors issued an array of decrees outlining their proper usage. In fact, one particularly verbose edict from Emperor Justinian II mandated that no paperclip shall exceed the length of the average thumb, lest it incite envy among those of lesser bureaucratic stature. Taxes, of course, were the lifeblood of the empire, and paperclips played a role here too. The tax collectors, armed with their ledgers and an alarming number of paperclips, were tasked with ensuring that every citizen paid their dues. The collection process was a meticulous affair, each tax was recorded in a ledger, and each ledger was kept together with a paperclip. To lose a paperclip was to risk a tax revolt, to misplace a ledger was practically treason. In the grand bureaucratic tapestry, the paperclip became a symbol of compliance and control. The clerks would often joke that a well-organized ledger was a sign of divine favor, while a disheveled pile of papers bound by fraying twine was an omen of impending doom. And so, the fate of the empire rested on tiny metal contraptions that seemed innocuous but held the power to either bind or break the bureaucracy. Logistics and supply chains. Logistics in the Byzantine Empire were nothing short of a Herculean undertaking. With vast territories to manage and resources to distribute, the supply chains were as intricate as a game of chess played by pigeons. The movement of goods relied heavily on the bureaucratic machinery, and paperclips became an unexpected ally in the chaotic world of logistics. Consider the Byzantine grain trade, which was vital to the empire's survival. Grain shipments moved from the fertile fields of Egypt to the bustling markets of Constantinople, but before they could reach their destination, they had to navigate a bureaucratic gauntlet. Each shipment required documentation, and each document was bound with the ever-reliable paperclip. Local officials responsible for overseeing these shipments would often find themselves drowning in a sea of paperwork. To manage this chaos, they devised a system known as the clip of accountability. Each shipment's documents were clipped together, and a small wax seal was affixed, ensuring that no one could tamper with the records without drawing suspicion. This practice led to a peculiar phenomenon. Some officials became so enamored with their paperclip systems that they began to assign personalities to their clips, naming them after famous military leaders or disgraced bureaucrats. This one's Alexander, one clerk might say, and that's the traitorous Belisarius. He never quite held everything together. However, as with any system that relies on human oversight, things could, and often did, go wrong. There were tales of entire shipments being lost simply because a paperclip had gone missing. The ensuing investigations were akin to detective dramas, with officials interrogating each other over lost clips in a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of order. ###record keeping with lots of specifics. Record keeping, the bread and butter of Byzantine bureaucracy. If there was one thing the Byzantines loved more than edicts, it was meticulously documenting every conceivable aspect of their operations. And where there were records, there were paperclips, those unsung heroes of the clerical world. Byzantine officials were known for their attention to detail, and their ledgers reflected this obsession. Each entry meticulously recorded tax payments, grain shipments, and even the number of paperclips used in the office. Yes, you read that right. There are surviving records that detail the exact number of paperclips each bureaucrat utilized in a given year, as if such metrics could somehow predict the health of the empire. One particularly pedantic official, whose name has regrettably been lost to history, maintained an annual report titled The Paperclip Census. This document was a comprehensive analysis of the paperclip economy within the empire, detailing fluctuations in supply and demand, the impact of foreign imports, and even a seasonal forecast of clip availability. The report became a source of both ridicule and respect, as some viewed it as a necessary piece of bureaucratic oversight, while others thought it was simply a waste of parchment. As the centuries progressed, the Byzantine bureaucratic obsession with record-keeping took on a life of its own. By the late 12th century, the empire had begun to see the rise of what was known as the Bureau of Paperclip Accountability, an entire department dedicated to the regulation and distribution of paperclips across the empire. It was a move that would surely have made even the most seasoned bureaucrat raise an eyebrow. One surprising, borderline grotesque anecdote. And now, dear reader, we arrive at the piece de resistance of our exploration, a particularly grotesque anecdote that underscores the absurdity of Byzantine paperclip regulations. In the year 1094, during a particularly chaotic period in Byzantine history, a clerical error involving paperclips led to a scandal that reverberated through the halls of power. A lowly clerk in the province of Bithynia mistakenly reported that 500,000 paperclips had been distributed to local officials. This figure, embellished by a careless scribe, caught the attention of the imperial court, which immediately summoned the clerk for questioning. What followed was a whirlwind of bureaucratic misadventures. The clerk, fearing the wrath of his superiors, concocted an elaborate story about a great paperclip festival that had taken place in Bithynia, claiming that the entire population had gathered to celebrate the humble clip. He even went so far as to fabricate testimonials from imaginary nobles who praised the benefits of proper paperclip usage. The emperor, intrigued by the notion of a festival dedicated to such a mundane object, ordered an investigation. When officials arrived in Bithynia, they found not a festival but an empty town, the locals having fled in anticipation of the bureaucratic storm that was sure to follow. In the end, the clerk was found guilty of gross exaggeration, but instead of facing punishment, he was rewarded with a position in the Bureau of Paperclip Accountability. And so, the Byzantine Empire continued to waddle forward, burdened by its own bureaucracy and held together by paperclips, both literal and metaphorical. #Conclusion. In the grand tapestry of history, the Byzantine Empire often gets overshadowed by its more glamorous contemporaries. Yet, buried within its bureaucratic bowels lies a wealth of absurdity and intrigue, none more so than the saga of paperclip regulations. From regional variations and convoluted laws to the logistics of supply chains and record-keeping, the Byzantine obsession with these tiny metal fasteners serves as a reminder of the hilarity and horror of bureaucratic life. So, the next time you find yourself wrestling with a mountain of paperwork, remember the Byzantines and their paperclips, and take solace in the fact that, no matter how complex or ridiculous your situation may be, at least you're not trying to manage an empire with a questionable supply of office supplies. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. The Byzantine Empire, a sprawling tapestry of intrigue, religious fervor, and, most importantly, paperclip regulations. Yes, you heard me right. The Byzantine bureaucratic machine, a veritable colossus of inefficiency, had an entire section dedicated to the regulation of paperclips. This may seem like a trivial matter, but let's dive into the labyrinthine world of Byzantine paperclip regulations, where regional variations, laws, edicts, taxes, and even the odd grotesque anecdote await us. ###A brief introduction to Byzantine bureaucracy. The Byzantine Empire, with its capital in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, existed for over a millennium, from 330 AD until the fall of the city in 1453. It was a time when the bureaucratic state was as complex as the theological debates of the era, if not more so. Enshrined in the grandiosity of imperial power was a bureaucracy that made modern-day government red tape look as appealing as a well-conserved papyrus scroll. Byzantine bureaucracy was renowned for its convoluted hierarchy, where a minor official could wield more power than a provincial governor. Enter the paperclip regulations, a seemingly mundane aspect of this vast administrative structure that, believe it or not, had significant implications for logistics, supply chains, and record-keeping. ###Regional variations over time. Let's take a moment to consider the regional variations of paperclip regulations across the empire. In the early days of Byzantine rule, paperclips were rare commodities, akin to gold nuggets in the wild. They were mostly fabricated from bronze and were considered luxury items due to the labor-intensive crafting process. The elite class in Constantinople had access to finely crafted paperclips adorned with intricate designs. Think of them as the designer handbags of office supplies. As time marched on, the empire expanded and diversified. In regions like Thrace and Asia Minor, local variations emerged. Some provinces adopted simpler, utilitarian designs, while others, inspired by the lavish tastes of the capital, created flamboyant paperclips that could only be described as opulent. These regional variations not only reflected local aesthetics but also the economic conditions of the areas. By the 11th century, with the empire's gradual decline, paperclip regulations took on a more utilitarian approach. The imperial edicts began to specify the dimensions and materials that could be used in manufacturing paperclips, regulations that seemed trivial but were crucial for maintaining a semblance of order in an increasingly chaotic empire. The laws, edicts, and taxes. Now, let's talk about the laws, edicts, and taxes that govern Byzantine paperclips. Yes, you read that correctly. An entire legal framework was established to regulate the production and distribution of these tiny metallic wonders. In 1045, Emperor Constantine IX issued the famed Edict of the Paperclip, which set forth a series of laws concerning the manufacture, sale, and use of paperclips throughout the empire. The edict mandated that all paperclips must be registered with local authorities, and manufacturers were required to pay a tax based on the number of clips produced. This tax was often termed the clip tax, and it was levied with such fervor that it could make a modern-day tax auditor weep with envy. The revenue generated was intended to bolster the imperial treasury and support the burgeoning bureaucracy, but, as with many Byzantine initiatives, it fell victim to corruption and inefficiency. In a twist of fate, the clip tax became infamous not only for its financial implications but also for its role in the rise of local bureaucratic elites. These officials, often with a penchant for extravagance, would pocket a portion of the tax revenue while providing subpar services. Citizens would often joke that the best way to become wealthy in Byzantium was to become a bureaucrat, and the best way to become a bureaucrat? Mastery of the art of paperclip regulation. Logistics and supply chains. In the Byzantine Empire, logistics and supply chains were the sinews that held the vast territories together. Paperclips, though small and often overlooked, played a surprisingly pivotal role in the organization of documents, contracts, and military orders. With a sprawling bureaucracy that required meticulous record-keeping, the humble paperclip became an unsung hero in the Byzantine admin arsenal. Consider this: a military general in the field might issue dozens of orders daily. Each order needed to be documented and transported to various outposts across the empire. Enter the paperclip, holding together vital military communications like a soldier clutching a sword. The logistics of transporting these documents were fraught with peril, often involving treacherous mountain passes or hostile territories. A misplaced document could lead to catastrophic consequences, and thus, the humble paperclip became a crucial instrument for ensuring that orders were executed efficiently. However, the Byzantine approach to logistics was anything but straightforward. The empire had a penchant for overcomplicating even the simplest tasks. Imagine a wagon carrying a shipment of paperclips from Constantinople to the remote province of Armenia. This wagon would have to navigate through a bureaucratic nightmare. Each stop required the wagon driver to present a myriad of documents, all held together by, yes, you guessed it, paperclips. Delays were common, and by the time the shipment arrived, the demand for paperclips might have changed dramatically, rendering the entire venture moot. Record keeping with lots of specifics. Now, let's delve into the nitty-gritty of record-keeping in the Byzantine Empire. The bureaucracy was obsessed with documentation. Every paperclip produced, sold, or used had to be recorded meticulously. Local clerks maintained ledgers that would make a modern accountant's head spin. These ledgers contained details such as the number of clips manufactured, the identities of manufacturers, and even the decorative styles employed. The Byzantine Empire's obsession with detail extended to the very design of the paperclips themselves. In the meticulous record-keeping of the 12th century, one could find specifications for paperclips that included dimensions down to the millimeter, the alloy content, and even the intended use. A paperclip meant for military orders had to meet strict criteria, while one destined for use in the imperial court could be lavishly designed. The record-keeping system, however, was not without its flaws. Bureaucrats were notorious for their haphazard methods, and clerical errors abounded. A misfiled paperclip order could lead to the absurdity of a provincial governor receiving a shipment of ornate clips meant for the empress's private collection. Such errors could have dire consequences, leading to public embarrassment or, worse, the ire of a temperamental emperor. ###A surprising, borderline grotesque anecdote. Now, we can't discuss Byzantine paperclip regulations without including a story that adds a dash of the grotesque to our otherwise mundane exploration. In 1170, during the reign of Emperor Manuel I Komnenos, a particularly ambitious bureaucrat named Alexios decided to make a name for himself by cracking down on paperclip tax evasion. He launched an investigation that involved inspecting every office and workshop across the empire. In a twist that would make any modern-day bureaucrat cringe, Alexios went so far as to create a paperclip task force, comprised of local officials and eager informants. The task force was notorious for its extreme methods, which included mandatory inspections of private homes, an invasion of privacy that sparked outrage across the empire. In one notorious incident, a hapless merchant was found to have a stockpile of paperclips that exceeded his declared inventory. Instead of a simple fine, Alexios escalated the situation. He ordered that the merchant be punished by having his entire stock of paperclips melted down and poured into a mold shaped like the emperor's head. The resulting grotesque artifact was then displayed prominently in the town square as a cautionary tale for other would-be tax evaders. The merchant, of course, was left bereft of his livelihood, and the townsfolk were left to wonder whether the punishment truly fit the crime. The story of Alexios and his grotesque display became a cautionary tale, passed down through generations, highlighting the absurdity of Byzantine bureaucracy. ###Conclusion. In conclusion, the history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations is an absurd yet fascinating chapter in the annals of history. From the regional variations and convoluted laws to the logistics of supply chains and the meticulous record-keeping, the paperclip became a symbol of the empire's bureaucratic bloat. And let's not forget the borderline grotesque anecdotes that add a splash of dark humor to the otherwise dry narrative. So, the next time you find yourself frustrated with the red tape of modern bureaucracy, just remember that the Byzantine Empire once took the regulation of paperclips to dizzying heights. In the grand scheme of history, the paperclip stands as a testament to human ingenuity, and, perhaps, human absurdity. Who knew that such a small object could reveal so much about the complexities of an empire that thrived for over 1,000 years? The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy. Paperclip regulations, a witty exploration. Ah, the Byzantine Empire. A realm synonymous with opulence, intrigue, and a bureaucracy so labyrinthine it could make even the most hardened civil servant weep into their coffee. Imagine a sprawling empire where the emperors donned crowns adorned with jewels, while their bureaucrats, clad in drab togas, wrestled daily with reams of parchment, quills in hand, trying to make sense of the Byzantine equivalent of a paperclip regulation. Yes, you heard it right, paperclips. Or whatever the Byzantine equivalent was, because let's be honest, we're talking about a time when metal was still a trendy new thing. Regional variations over time. To understand the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy, one must first comprehend the regional variations that crept into the paperclip regulations over time. Picture it, the Balkan provinces, with their rugged terrain and penchant for rebellion, had an entirely different approach to paperclip usage compared to the more cosmopolitan areas of Constantinople. The former, ever eager to maintain a semblance of autonomy, devised their own makeshift paperclips, fashioned from twisted vines and the occasional rogue piece of metal scavenged from the remains of a long-ago battle. Meanwhile, in the capital, bureaucrats were busy crafting elaborate laws dictating the exact dimensions and tensile strength of their paperclips, perhaps even establishing a bureau of paperclip aesthetics. As the empire expanded and contracted over the centuries, so too did the regulations governing these essential instruments of administration. In the 6th century, Emperor Justinian I, not content with merely codifying Roman law, decided it was high time to standardize the paperclip. His edict proclaimed that all paperclips must be of uniform size, exactly 2.5 inches in length, ensuring that every scroll, ledger, and tax document could be efficiently organized. This uniformity, however, did not extend to the provinces, where local leaders often ignored the imperial decree and continued to use their own, often eccentric, paperclip innovations. In fact, the regional variations became so pronounced that one could identify a province's allegiance or rebellion simply by examining the paperclips used in their documentation. A paperclip made of bronze? Clearly from Thrace. A bent wire paperclip that looked suspiciously like a fishhook? You guessed it, those shifty folks from the Aegean Islands. The paperclip was not merely a tool, it became a symbol of regional identity, resistance, and, let's face it, utter bureaucratic absurdity. Laws, edicts, taxes, and ledgers. Ah, the laws. The Byzantine Empire was a hotbed of legal activity, with an unending parade of edicts that would make even the most turgid modern-day legislative session look like a delightful romp through a children's book. The edicts concerning paperclip regulations, however, were the crème de la crème of Byzantine red tape. In one particularly famous edict, Emperor Leo VI declared that the use of paperclips could be taxed, with revenues earmarked for the maintenance of the great palace's golden toilet seats. Yes, you read that correctly. The Byzantine bureaucracy saw no limits to its absurdities, and the taxation of office supplies became a reality. Tax collectors roamed the streets, armed with scales to weigh the paperclips as if they were precious gems, levying fines on anyone caught with an excessive number of these tiny metallic marvels. Ledgers became the lifeblood of the empire, with bureaucrats meticulously documenting every paperclip transaction, every tax levied, and every clandestine use of the dreaded, unofficial, paperclip. In fact, the infamous Ledger of Lost Paperclips was created to track down the missing office supplies that mysteriously vanished under the watchful eyes of bureaucratic oversight. Historians suggest this was the first ever example of a supply chain crisis, a term that would become all too familiar in the centuries to come. Logistics and supply chains. Logistics in the Byzantine Empire was akin to attempting to assemble a jigsaw puzzle while blindfolded and standing on a precarious cliff. Supply chains were a tangled web of red tape, miscommunication, and sheer chaos. The procurement of paperclips, for instance, required the bureaucratic equivalent of a military operation. Suppliers from various provinces were tasked with delivering the official paperclip, an endeavor that was fraught with peril. Bandits roamed the highways, and if a shipment of what was supposed to be standardized paperclips went missing, the repercussions were severe. The bureaucrat responsible for the shipment could find themselves on the receiving end of a rather unpleasant demotion or, in more extreme cases, a one-way ticket to a remote outpost where they would be tasked with counting sheep instead of paperclips. Byzantine logistics were further complicated by the sheer size of the empire. Communication between provinces was slow, and often messages about new paperclip regulations arrived weeks after the fact. Imagine a provincial governor receiving a missive about a new tax on paperclips while he was busy fending off a rebellion. The result? Local leaders would disregard the imperial decree, causing a rift between the capital and the provinces. In one particularly humorous instance, a shipment of paperclips destined for Constantinople ended up in the hands of a local bakery in Thessalonica. The baker, seeing an opportunity, decided to use the metal clips as makeshift pastry decorations, leading to a culinary sensation known as paperclip pastries. These pastries, while visually appealing, did not sit well with customers, leading to a public outcry and an imperial investigation into the matter. Record keeping with lots of specifics. Record keeping was the backbone of Byzantine bureaucracy, and one could argue it was an art form in itself. The meticulous documentation of paperclip regulations was no exception. Bureaucrats prided themselves on their ability to produce endless records of every paperclip-related transaction, and the layers of documentation grew thicker than the empire's own walls. In the great archives of Constantinople, one could find tomes filled with the minutiae of paperclip usage, how many paperclips were authorized for use in a particular department, how many were recovered from rogue bureaucrats who had taken them home for personal projects, and even the infamous paperclip incident of 949, where a miscommunication led to an entire shipment of gold-plated paperclips being mistaken for regular ones, resulting in a scandal that rocked the imperial court. The records were so specific that they even detailed the circumstances of individual paperclips. For instance, one entry reads, "On the 5th of May, 1021, a copper paperclip was utilized in the signing of a treaty with the Pechenegs." The paperclip was later lost during a celebratory feast. Such attention to detail was not only a testament to the empire's commitment to bureaucracy but also an insight into just how ridiculous things could get when the fate of an empire rested on the use of a mere paperclip. One surprising, borderline grotesque anecdote. And now, dear readers, brace yourselves for the surprising, borderline grotesque anecdote that will forever change the way you think about Byzantine paperclip regulations. In the year 1032, during the reign of Emperor Romanos III, a peculiar incident occurred that would go down in the annals of history as the Great Paperclip Scandal. It all began when a mid-level bureaucrat, eager to impress his superiors, decided to create an innovative, new type of paperclip. This paperclip was not merely functional, it was adorned with intricate designs, featuring tiny motifs of eagles and other imperial symbols. However, in a fit of creative madness, this bureaucrat decided to use the remains of a long-dead relative as a binding agent for the metal mixture, believing it would imbue the paperclips with ancestral wisdom. What could possibly go wrong? When the first batch of these grotesque paperclips was delivered to the imperial court, the reaction was swift and visceral. The paperclips, while visually stunning, bore an unmistakable odor, one that hinted at their macabre origins. As the story spread, the court erupted into chaos, with nobles fainting and others scrambling to distance themselves from the scandal. The bureaucrat was swiftly arrested and brought before the emperor, who, rather than executing him, which was the usual fate for such blunders, chose to make an example of him by allowing him to live but forcing him to work in the empire's most remote post, where he was tasked with counting the number of sheep in a region known for its particularly irritable flock. The whole incident serves as a cautionary tale in the annals of Byzantine history. Never, under any circumstances, should one attempt to innovate in the realm of paperclips without proper oversight. And thus, the Byzantine emperor, with a sigh and a roll of his eyes, reaffirmed that the only thing worse than bureaucratic absurdity was bureaucratic grotesqueness. In conclusion, the Byzantine Empire's paperclip regulations are both a comical reflection of imperial excess and a testament to the absurdities of bureaucracy. From regional variations to the intricate laws and record-keeping that define the empire, one cannot help but marvel at the lengths to which the Byzantine bureaucrats went to ensure that every paperclip was accounted for, all while navigating the labyrinth of logistics that defined their world. And as we reflect on the history of these humble office supplies, we are reminded of the enduring truth: sometimes, it's the smallest things that can lead to the most ludicrous of scandals. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations, a study in mediocrity. When we think of the Byzantine Empire, we often conjure images of opulent palaces, glittering mosaics, and the occasional riotous mob demanding more bread, or, perhaps, a more competent emperor. But hidden beneath the surface of this glittering civilization lies a labyrinthine system of bureaucracy so intricate, so mind-numbing, that it could make even the most seasoned accountant weep into their ledgers. And in the midst of this bureaucratic quagmire, we find the utterly fascinating, if not entirely riveting, subject of paperclip regulations. Regional variations over time, a tale of two clipboards. To fully appreciate the Byzantine approach to paperclip regulations, we must first acknowledge the regional variations over time. Picture, if you will, the vast expanse of the empire stretching from the sun-soaked shores of Byzantium, what we now call Istanbul, to the frostbitten reaches of the Danube. Each region was not only culturally distinct but also had its own unique approach to the humble paperclip. In Constantinople, the epicenter of Byzantine bureaucracy, paperclips were treated with the reverence normally reserved for sacred relics. The bureaucrats, clad in their flowing robes, would meticulously record each paperclip usage in ledgers, complete with ornate calligraphy that would make any modern-day graphic designer green with envy. This paperclip, they would write, was utilized in the filing of the fourth decree regarding the taxation of wine from the Thracian vineyards. Meanwhile, in the provinces, things were decidedly less glamorous. Take, for example, the rural regions of Anatolia, where paperclips were crafted from hastily bent nails scavenged from construction sites. These homemade contraptions were often used interchangeably with twigs, string, or the occasional goat horn, depending on what was handy at the time. Consequently, record-keeping was a haphazard affair, often involving a chicken scratch system that left much to be desired. One paperclip used for agricultural tax forms, maybe, one scribe might have jotted down, or possibly a twig. Hard to tell. As the centuries rolled on, the Byzantine bureaucracy became increasingly centralized, and the paperclip regulations were standardized. However, the regional quirks never entirely vanished. In the late 11th century, for instance, a particularly stringent edict emerged from Constantinople mandating that all paperclips be made of bronze, an attempt to curb the rampant use of improvised fasteners in the provinces. This led to a brief but spirited black market economy where peasants traded in their makeshift metal scraps for genuine Byzantine paperclips, which were, ironically, the very things that were supposed to keep order in the chaotic world of imperial paperwork. Laws, edicts, taxes, and the great paperclip shortage of 1175. Now, let us dive into the nitty-gritty of Byzantine law, where paperclips were not merely office supplies, but instruments of the state's will. The legal framework surrounding these precious little fasteners was, unsurprisingly, a convoluted mess of decrees and edicts. The most notable of these was the Edict of 1072, which established a taxation system based on the number of paperclips used in the filing of official documents. This initiative was not without its challenges. In 1175, during the reign of Emperor Manuel I Komnenos, the empire faced what historians now refer to as the Great Paperclip Shortage. It was a crisis of epic proportions that sent bureaucrats into a state of utter frenzy. With paperclips running low, the very fabric of imperial governance began to fray. Documents piled up, taxes went uncollected, and state secrets were at risk of being lost forever, all due to the absence of these tiny metallic marvels. In a panic, Manuel issued a series of laws mandating the repurposing of other metallic objects as makeshift paperclips. Let not the loss of one paperclip mean the loss of one decree, the emperor declared. The results were, to put it mildly, not great. Official documents began to emerge with everything from bent spoons to broken sword blades hastily employed as fasteners, leading to an era of confusion that historians refer to as the Dark Ages of document management. Logistics and supply chains, the unsung heroes of the bureaucratic machine. The Byzantine Empire was not only a marvel of military strategy and artistic achievement, it also boasted an impressively complex logistical framework, akin to the modern-day supply chains that keep our grocery stores stocked. Byzantine logistics were the unsung heroes of the bureaucratic machine, ensuring that everything, yes, even paperclips, flowed smoothly from the imperial treasury to the farthest reaches of the empire. At the heart of this logistical network was the famed cursus publicus, an elaborate system of relay stations staffed by weary horses and even wearier postal workers. Each station was equipped with enough paperclips to last a fortnight, ensuring that vital documents could be dispatched and received without delay. Unfortunately, the cursus publicus also became a breeding ground for petty corruption, as local officials often pilfered supplies for their own use. Why send a paperclip to the capital when I can use it to keep my own tax forms in order? One particularly enterprising prefect was once reported to have lamented. However, this system was not without its flaws. When the great paperclip shortage hit, the logistics of paperclip distribution were thrown into utter disarray. Supply lines were stretched thin, and bureaucrats resorted to creative solutions. Some began trading in paperclips as if they were currency, leading to a bizarre economic phenomenon where the value of a paperclip fluctuated wildly based on local demand and availability. In rural areas, a single bronze paperclip could fetch a goat or even a sack of grain, while in the urban center of Constantinople, it might barely cover the cost of a single loaf of bread. Record-keeping, a symphony of frustration and futility. As with any good bureaucracy, record-keeping constituted the backbone of Byzantine administration. The empire was obsessed with documentation, documenting everything from census data to the minutiae of paperclip usage. Scribes, often seen as the monks of the bureaucratic world, toiled away in dimly lit chambers, recording each paperclip transaction with painstaking precision. One particularly famous scribe, Michael of Ephesus, was known for his obsessive dedication to recording every detail. Legend has it that he once spent an entire week documenting the paperclip usage of the Ministry of Agriculture, only to discover at the end that the data was entirely inaccurate due to a rogue cat that had knocked over an ink pot. The resulting chaos led to what is now referred to as the Great Cat Incident of 1153, in which an entire department was forced to redo its paperwork, all because of one feline's curiosity. The Byzantine penchant for record-keeping extended beyond mere office supplies. There existed a comprehensive ledger for every conceivable aspect of life in the empire, from taxes collected to the number of paperclips used in imperial correspondence. This level of detail, while admirable, often resulted in a mind-numbing array of documents that could easily overwhelm even the most seasoned bureaucrat. A surprising anecdote: the emperor, the paperclip, and the raccoon. In a twist that could only arise from the absurdity of historical events, one particularly grotesque anecdote stands out in the annals of Byzantine bureaucracy. It happened during the reign of Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, a ruler known for his attempts to streamline the bureaucratic machine. One fateful afternoon, while inspecting the imperial archives, Alexios discovered a raccoon that had somehow managed to infiltrate the building. The creature, drawn by the tantalizing scent of ink and parchment, had wreaked havoc on the carefully organized records. In a moment of utter frustration, the emperor decided to put an end to the chaos. He ordered that all paperclips be replaced with a new, raccoon-proof design. This led to what has been dubbed the Great Raccoon Reformation, a series of edicts mandating the redesign of paperclips to accommodate the unique challenges posed by wildlife. It was a bizarre chapter in Byzantine history that left everyone scratching their heads. How a single raccoon could upend an entire bureaucratic system and lead to a nationwide paperclip redesign is a question that may never be fully answered. In conclusion, the history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy and its paperclip regulations is a tale of regional quirks, logistical nightmares, and the absurdity of record-keeping. While it may not make for the most thrilling reading, it serves as a reminder that even the most mundane aspects of governance can have profound implications. So, the next time you reach for a paperclip, take a moment to appreciate the centuries of bureaucratic evolution that led to that simple metallic marvel. After all, in the grand tapestry of history, it's the little things that often hold the most weight, much like the Byzantine Empire itself. ### The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. Introduction: The unassuming paperclip and its Byzantine origins. While the Byzantine Empire is often celebrated for its grandeur and complexity, it also harbored an astonishing array of regulations governing the most mundane aspects of daily life. Among these regulations, the rules surrounding paperclip usage stand out for their sheer absurdity and, at times, their level of enforcement. How could a simple office tool become the focus of bureaucratic minutiae? And what can these rules tell us about the nature of imperial governance in the Byzantine Empire? Minor figures and petty rules, the unsung heroes of bureaucracy. The Byzantine bureaucracy was a labyrinthine entity filled with minor figures who wielded disproportionate power through seemingly trivial regulations. One such figure was the kleptosophos, a lesser-known bureaucrat responsible for overseeing the production and distribution of office supplies, including paperclips. They were tasked with ensuring that all paperclips met the imperial standards, which, according to a 12th-century codex, specified that each paperclip must be made of iron, no less than 0.5 mm in diameter, and capable of holding a minimum of 20 sheets of papyrus. These regulations may seem trivial today, yet the kleptosophos could ruin a scribe's career for using substandard clips. This character exemplifies the Byzantine penchant for regulation and the deeply hierarchical nature of its bureaucracy, where even the most mundane tasks fell under the scrutiny of various officials. Case studies in paperclip governance, dates and lists. Consider the year 1054, when a notorious incident known as the Great Paperclip Scandal unfolded. A lowly clerk in the imperial chancery was found to be using homemade paperclips fashioned from twigs and string. The ensuing investigation uncovered an underground network of bureaucrats selling unapproved office supplies. A case study of this scandal reveals several key players. 1. Andronikos of Chios, the clerk who initiated the scandal, later exiled for using improper materials. 2. Eudokia of Byzantium, the kleptosophos who oversaw the investigation, known for her ruthless efficiency. 3. Constantine IX Monomachos, the reigning emperor who was forced to issue a public decree reaffirming the importance of proper paperclip usage. The emperor's decree included a list of approved suppliers and mandated that all governmental offices utilize paperclips from these sanctioned sources. Not only did this decree solidify the power of the bureaucracy, but it also showcased the extent to which the imperial regime would go to maintain order, even in trivial matters. Another notable case occurred in 1176, during the reign of Manuel I Comnenos. The Paperclip Rebellion, as it came to be known, was sparked by a group of junior clerks who protested against the high costs of approved paperclips. They demanded more affordable options, leading to mass demonstrations at the Great Palace. The emperor responded by sending in the Varangian Guard to quell the unrest, resulting in a chaotic scene where paperclips were thrown like confetti. This incident not only illustrated the absurdity of the situation but also highlighted the lengths to which the Byzantine state would go to maintain its bureaucratic grip. Comparisons to other regions, paperclips in perspective. When examining Byzantine paperclip regulations, it is intriguing to compare them to those of other contemporary civilizations. In the Islamic Caliphate, for example, bureaucratic regulations were similarly detailed, but they focused more on the materials used in the creation of manuscripts and scrolls, rather than the hardware used to organize them. The Abbasid Caliph al-Ma'mun, in the 9th century, famously established the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, emphasizing scholarly pursuits over petty bureaucratic concerns. His administration prioritized knowledge over minutiae, unlike the Byzantine focus on rigid regulation. Conversely, in the fragmented feudal systems of Western Europe, paperclips were virtually non-existent until the 15th century. The scribes of medieval France and England relied on wax seals and ribbons to bind their documents, showing that their bureaucratic practices were less concerned with standardization and more with maintaining records' authenticity. The Byzantine Empire, in contrast, was a paragon of bureaucratic order, albeit with a focus on trivialities like paperclips. Archaeological tidbits, unearthing the bureaucratic legacy. The Byzantine fascination with paperclip regulations has also left an archaeological legacy. In 1921, excavations at the site of the Great Palace in Constantinople uncovered a cache of ancient stationery, including various paperclips of different sizes and materials. Among these artifacts was a bronze paperclip adorned with the imperial eagle, believed to have belonged to a high-ranking official. This discovery provides tangible evidence of the Byzantine Empire's obsession with standardized office supplies. Moreover, inscriptions found on tablets in the ruins of administrative centers indicate that officials kept meticulous records of paperclip usage in governmental offices. One such inscription, dated to 1165, reads, "On this day, 300 paperclips were issued to the office of the imperial chancery, of which 50 were found to be defective." This attention to detail reflects the Byzantine commitment to maintaining order and standards, which permeated even the most mundane aspects of governance. 2 rhetorical questions, hooking curiosity. What drives an empire to impose such stringent regulations on something as innocuous as a paperclip? Could these seemingly trivial rules reveal deeper truths about the nature of power, control, and the human condition in the Byzantine era? Conclusion: The legacy of Byzantine bureaucratic absurdities. The Byzantine Empire's history of paperclip regulations may appear to be an inconsequential footnote in the annals of history, yet it serves as a microcosm of the empire's broader bureaucratic ethos. Through the lens of minor figures, petty rules, case studies, and comparative analysis, we can appreciate the intricate tapestry of governance that characterized Byzantine life. The legacy of these regulations, reinforced through archaeological findings, underscores the empire's commitment to order and control, even in the most mundane aspects of daily life. As we ponder the absurdities of Byzantine bureaucratic practices, we are reminded that history is often shaped by the minutiae of governance, revealing the complexities of human behavior in the face of authority. In a world where the paperclip became a symbol of imperial power, we are left to wonder, what other seemingly trivial regulations might hold the key to understanding the complexities of past civilizations? ###The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. Introduction: The unassuming paperclip and its Byzantine origins. While the Byzantine Empire is often celebrated for its grandeur and complexity, it also harbored an astonishing array of regulations governing the most mundane aspects of daily life. Among these regulations, the rules surrounding paperclip usage stand out for their sheer absurdity and, at times, their level of enforcement. How could a simple object like a paperclip become a focal point of bureaucratic oversight? The answer lies in understanding the Byzantine approach to governance, where even the minutiae of everyday life were subject to imperial scrutiny. The Byzantine Empire, which lasted from approximately 330 AD to 1453 AD, was characterized by its intricate administrative systems and a penchant for regulation. The use of paperclips, though seemingly trivial, was influenced by the broader context of document management within an empire that prided itself on record-keeping. The introduction of paperclips can be traced back to the late 19th century, but the Byzantine Empire had its own methods of securing documents long before that. Historical context: bureaucratic innovations. The Byzantine bureaucracy emerged as a sophisticated system to manage the vast territories and diverse populations of the empire. Under Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 AD, the administration was notably reformed, leading to the creation of the famous Corpus Juris Civilis, which codified Roman law. This monumental work not only shaped legal frameworks but also established protocols for documentation and record-keeping. In this context, the need for efficient document management became paramount. With the proliferation of administrative correspondence, legal documents, and tax records, the Byzantine officials developed various methods to organize and secure papers. Early forms of paperclips were made from metal wires bent into loops, serving the same purpose as their modern counterparts. However, by the 12th century, regulations concerning their use began to take shape, reflecting the empire's obsession with order and compliance. Specific regulations and enforcement mechanisms. By the mid-12th century, the Byzantine bureaucracy had established stringent guidelines regarding the materials used for document organization. Among these was a decree issued in 1157 AD by Emperor Manuel I Komnenos, which specified that only metal clips of a certain gauge and size could be used in official documents. These paperclips were required to be of brass, a material deemed appropriate for their durability and aesthetic appeal. The official specifications dictated that each clip should measure no more than 2 inches in length and 0.5 inches in width, ensuring uniformity across all governmental correspondence. Additionally, the enforcement of these paperclip regulations became a point of contention. Bureaucratic inspectors, known as logothetes, were tasked with ensuring compliance. These inspectors conducted regular audits of administrative offices, examining not only the documents themselves but also the tools used to secure them. Cases of non-compliance were met with penalties, ranging from fines to demotions for officials who dared to use unauthorized materials. Case studies: the impact of regulations. A notable case that exemplifies the impact of these regulations occurred in 1204 AD during the Fourth Crusade. As Byzantine officials grappled with the chaotic political climate, the use of improper paperclips became a subject of scrutiny amidst the turmoil. An official in Constantinople, tasked with compiling a list of troops and resources for the defense of the city, was found using paperclips that exceeded the mandated dimensions. His failure to adhere to the regulations resulted in his temporary removal from office, illustrating the rigid enforcement of bureaucratic standards even in times of crisis. Moreover, in 1250 AD, a unique incident involving the use of paperclips came to light when a merchant attempted to bribe a customs official by offering him gold-plated paperclips as a means of expediting his cargo clearance. This incident highlighted not only the rigidity of the regulations but also the lengths to which individuals would go to circumvent bureaucratic processes. The merchant was subsequently arrested, and his case became a cautionary tale about the consequences of defying the established norms. Extended processes and measurements. The processes surrounding document management in the Byzantine Empire were intricate and often involved multiple layers of bureaucratic review. Each document was first crafted by a scribe, who meticulously wrote out the necessary information using quills and ink. Once completed, the document would be folded and secured with a paperclip, following the specifications outlined in imperial regulations. Subsequently, the document would pass through various hands for approval, often requiring a series of stamps and signatures from different officials. Each stamp was a symbol of authorization, and the paperclip served as a physical manifestation of the document's integrity. The precise measurements of the paperclips were not merely trivial details, they were crucial for maintaining the sanctity of official records. In conclusion, the Byzantine Empire's regulations surrounding paperclips offer a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of its bureaucratic system. While seemingly mundane, these regulations reflect the empire's overarching commitment to order and efficiency in administration. The historical context, specific regulations, enforcement mechanisms, and case studies illustrate how even the most trivial aspects of life were intertwined with the empire's governance. In a world where every detail mattered, the paperclip became an unlikely symbol of Byzantine meticulousness. The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy. Paperclip regulations. The Byzantine Empire, known for its rich tapestry of political intrigue, cultural achievements, and ecclesiastical struggles, may seem an unlikely place for a detailed examination of something as seemingly mundane as paperclip regulations. Yet, within the elaborate machinery of Byzantine bureaucratic practice, even the most trivial details reveal the complexities of governance, social hierarchy, and economic control. What do paperclip regulations tell us about the Byzantine Empire, and how do they compare to the bureaucratic practices of other cultures? Minor figures and petty rules. In the grand narrative of Byzantine history, the emperors and generals often overshadow the minor bureaucratic figures who wielded significant influence over the day-to-day operations of the empire. Among these minor figures were the secretaries, grammates, and notaries, hyponyma, who were responsible for the minutiae of imperial regulations that included the use of paperclips. While the use of paperclips may seem trivial, the Byzantine government took great care to regulate even such minor items. A decree from Emperor Justinian I in 528 AD specified that only specific types of metal could be used to produce paperclips for official documents. This decree stated that all paper fastening devices employed in the imperial offices must be forged from bronze, the metal of virtue, and not from the base metals of the earth. This seemingly absurd regulation was a reflection of the Byzantine obsession with symbolism and the importance of virtue in governance. The minor bureaucrats who enforced these regulations were known as paperclip inspectors, a title that sounds absurd yet was vital to maintaining the integrity of official documents. These inspectors were often drawn from the lower rungs of the social ladder, yet they wielded considerable power over the functioning of the state. Their ability to determine which documents were deemed official or unofficial could mean the difference between promotion and disgrace for many a civil servant. Case studies with dates and lists. The Byzantine paperclip regulations were not merely a series of arbitrary rules. They were often accompanied by detailed case studies that illustrated the consequences of non-compliance. In 1032, an infamous incident involving a minor bureaucrat named Michael of Paphlagonia exemplified the absurdity and rigidity of these regulations. Michael, tasked with organizing the imperial archives, was found guilty of using an unapproved metal for paperclips. He had utilized a rare alloy that contained traces of silver, presumably believing it would lend a touch of elegance to the documents. The repercussions were swift and severe. A council was convened to review the case, resulting in the following list of decrees. 1. Decree 1. No paperclips shall incorporate any metal of precious value. 2. Decree 2. All paperclip inspectors must undergo annual training on the approved materials list. 3. Decree 3. Any document secured with non-compliant paperclips shall be considered void and without legal standing. Michael was demoted to a minor position in the provincial administration, while the council members took this opportunity to re-emphasize their authority over even the most trivial aspects of governance. This incident highlighted a broader trend within the Byzantine bureaucracy, the tendency to establish a reputation built on adherence to rules, however trivial. Another case in 1172 involved a bizarre scandal dubbed the Paperclip Affair. A rival faction within the bureaucracy accused the chief paperclip inspector, Andronikos, of embezzlement through the sale of unauthorized paperclips made of inferior materials. The investigation uncovered a network of minor officials who had colluded with Andronikos to produce counterfeit paperclips, leading to a series of public trials and the eventual execution of several low-ranking bureaucrats. The list of charges ranged from the unlawful manufacture of paper fastening devices to conspiracy against the imperial treasury. This scandal not only undermined public confidence in the bureaucracy but also prompted Emperor Manuel I Comnenus to issue a new edict reinforcing the importance of paperclip integrity. Comparisons to other regions. When one examines the Byzantine Empire's approach to bureaucratic regulations, it is tempting to draw comparisons with other contemporary empires. The Chinese Tang and Song dynasties, for instance, developed a highly structured bureaucracy that included meticulous regulations concerning official seals and document integrity. However, while the Chinese focused on seals and their symbolic representation of authority, the Byzantines harbored an obsession with the materials used in their bureaucratic tools, such as paperclips. In medieval Europe, the burgeoning bureaucracies of kingdoms like England and France were also concerned with documentation, but they focused more on the content of legal documents than the physical means of securing them. The Magna Carta of 1215, for example, primarily addressed the rights of the barons and the limitations of royal authority, with little attention paid to the minutiae of document presentation. This difference in bureaucratic emphasis highlights the unique fusion of formality and symbolism that characterized Byzantine governance. In the Islamic world, the Abbasid Caliphate also maintained an intricate bureaucratic system, yet their regulations concerning documentation revolved around calligraphy and the art of writing rather than the materials used to fasten those documents. The Persian influence on Islamic bureaucracy led to a focus on the aesthetic presentation of documents, contrasting sharply with the Byzantine fixation on the physical attributes of paperclips. Archaeological tidbits. The study of Byzantine paperclip regulations has been enriched by various archaeological discoveries. In the remnants of the Great Palace of Constantinople, archaeologists uncovered a cache of bronze paperclips dating back to the 10th century. These artifacts, inscribed with various imperial symbols, offer a glimpse into the bureaucratic minutiae of the time. The inscriptions suggest that these paperclips were not merely utilitarian, they were also imbued with a sense of identity and authority. Additionally, excavations at the site of a Byzantine administrative center in the province of Thrace revealed an ancient desk complete with a compartment for storing paperclips. This desk, adorned with intricate carvings and motifs, indicates that even the tools of bureaucratic work were viewed through an artistic lens, blending function with form. Moreover, the discovery of manuscript fragments containing references to paperclip regulations has provided historians with further insight into the Byzantine approach to documentation. One such fragment, dated to 1122, contains a thorough inventory of approved materials for paperclips, listing various metals and their respective virtues, each accompanied by a rationale for its inclusion or exclusion. Rhetorical questions. What might we learn about the structure and values of a society through its most trivial regulations? Can the obsession with something as mundane as paperclips reveal deeper truths about the intricacies of power and control in a historical context? Through the lens of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy, the history of paperclip regulations becomes a fascinating case study in the intersection of governance, symbolism, and social hierarchy. These seemingly trivial details illuminate the broader narrative of an empire that sought to maintain order and convey authority through every aspect of its administration. While the Byzantine Empire may have been known for its grand achievements in art, architecture, and theology, it was also a realm where the minutiae of governance could have profound implications, even in the form of simple paperclips. #The lackluster history of Byzantine imperial bureaucracy paperclip regulations. When one thinks of the Byzantine Empire, visions of opulent palaces, grand military campaigns, and theological debates often come to mind. However, beneath these grand narratives lies a more mundane yet equally intricate realm, the Byzantine imperial bureaucracy. Specifically, the regulations surrounding paperclips, a seemingly trivial aspect of governance, provide a fascinating glimpse into the complexity and absurdity of Byzantine administrative practices. This paper explores the minor figures and petty rules that govern paperclip usage, highlights notable case studies, compares Byzantine regulations to those of other regions, and delves into archaeological findings that shed light on this peculiar subject. #Minor figures and petty rules. The Byzantine bureaucracy was filled with minor officials whose duties often revolved around the most mundane of tasks. Among them was the cartophylax, the keeper of the imperial archives. While the title sounds grand, the cartophylax was often relegated to ensuring the proper organization and maintenance of documents, many of which were bound with rudimentary paperclips made from twisted metal scraps. The notarius, a clerical position, was responsible for certifying documents, often requiring that paperclips be affixed in a specific manner to denote authenticity. Such regulations, while minor in scale, demonstrate the Byzantine emphasis on order and protocol, even in the most trivial matters. One particularly outrageous example of bureaucratic absurdity is the regulation of paperclip size and material, enacted in 955 AD under Emperor Constantine VII. This regulation, which mandated that all paperclips used in imperial correspondence must be no longer than 2 centimeters and made of bronze, was ostensibly designed to maintain a standard of quality. However, as is often the case in bureaucratic history, it led to a plethora of minor infractions. For instance, in 963 AD, a minor official named Theophilus the tax collector was fined for using paperclips that were deemed excessively ornate, leading to a scandal that rippled through the local administration. Case studies with dates and lists. Several case studies illustrate the Byzantine fascination with paperclip regulations. 1. The Great Paperclip Scandal of 1146. This incident began when a shipment of iron paperclips from the Black Sea was discovered to be of superior quality compared to the mandated bronze ones. The Magister Officiorum, a high-ranking official, faced immense pressure to address the crisis, resulting in a temporary ban on all non-bronze paperclips. The scandal culminated in a public trial where merchants were accused of undermining the integrity of imperial documentation. The fallout included a series of bureaucratic reforms aimed at tightening quality control, leading to the establishment of the Imperial Bureau of Metal Standards. 2. the Circular of 1250, issued by Emperor Michael VIII Palaiologos. This circular outlined the correct usage of paperclips in imperial correspondence. It specified the number of paperclips allowed per document, which was dictated by the length of the text. Documents exceeding 10 pages were allowed a maximum of 3 paperclips, while those under 10 pages could use only 1. The rationale behind this was to prevent the overclipping of documents, which officials claimed led to confusion in the archives. The enforcement of this rule led to numerous complaints from scribes, who were often forced to reclip their work based on arbitrary length assessments. 3. The Edict of 1287. This edict introduced the concept of the paperclip tax, where officials were required to pay a small fee for each paperclip used in official documents. The revenue generated was intended to fund the construction of public baths in Constantinople. The implementation of this tax led to widespread evasion, as many officials resorted to crafting their own paperclips from scrap metal, which was often of dubious quality. A notable case involved a provincial governor who was caught using illegally manufactured paperclips fashioned from discarded armor, leading to a minor uproar and eventual imprisonment. ##### comparisons to other regions. Byzantine paperclip regulations stand in stark contrast to the practices of other contemporary empires. For instance, the Mongol Empire, known for its swift communication and efficient postal system, relied on a very different method of document handling. Rather than using paperclips, Mongolian couriers would often roll up documents tightly and secure them with simple strings. This practice emphasized speed and mobility over the Byzantine fixation on standardization and protocol. In Western Europe, the Holy Roman Empire also exhibited a bureaucratic style markedly different from that of the Byzantines. While the Holy Roman Empire had its own share of petty regulations, they were often less concerned with the minutiae of office supplies. Instead, the focus lay on the content and theological implications of documents rather than their physical assembly. The lack of a standardized paperclip system in the Holy Roman Empire allowed for greater flexibility, which some argue contributed to its administrative successes in comparison to the more rigid Byzantine model. ####archaeological tidbits. Archaeological findings in Constantinople have provided insights into the Byzantine approach to paperclip regulations. A notable discovery was made in the Basilica cistern, where a collection of bronze and iron paperclips was unearthed. Dating back to the 12th century, these artifacts illustrate the variety in design and size that existed despite the stringent regulations of the time. Some paperclips were adorned with intricate engravings, suggesting that even in the realm of bureaucracy, artistry was not entirely suppressed. Additionally, remnants of a bureaucratic office discovered in the Palace of Blacherny revealed a trove of documents, many of which bore the marks of paperclips. Analysis of these documents indicates that the failure to comply with paperclip regulations often resulted in administrative delays, leading to a backlog of unresolved cases. This finding underscores the practical implications of what might seem like trivial details in the grand tapestry of Byzantine governance. ####rhetorical questions to hook curiosity. Why did the Byzantine Empire devote so much energy to the regulation of something as seemingly trivial as paperclips? What can the obsession with this mundane office supply tell us about the broader societal values and priorities of an empire that lasted for over a millennium? Conclusion. The Byzantine imperial bureaucracy's regulation of paperclips, while ostensibly trivial, reveals much about the empire's broader administrative practices and societal values. Through the lens of minor figures, petty rules, and outrageous case studies, we gain a deeper understanding of how the Byzantine Empire prioritized order and control, even in the most mundane aspects of governance. The comparisons to other regions further highlight the unique characteristics of Byzantine bureaucracy, while archaeological discoveries enrich our understanding of this seemingly trivial subject. As we reflect on the Byzantine fascination with paperclips, one cannot help but wonder, in a world defined by digital communication and rapid exchanges, what relics of today's bureaucracy will future archaeologists uncover, and how will they interpret the significance of our own mundane regulations? And that's a wrap on today's episode. We've sipped through some wild facts that'll make you the trivia champion of your next gathering. Who knew learning could be this much fun? Here's a surprising nugget for you. Did you know that honey never spoils? Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. If you enjoyed this dive into the quirky and curious, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your favorite moment. We love hearing from you. Plus, make sure to check out our related episodes for even more mind-boggling facts and entertaining insights. And hey, why not turn on loop so this episode plays on repeat until you drift off? Sweet dreams and see you next time.